Hello, I am Chris Jackson from actionqa.com, and this is a sneak peek of a new Udemy course that I'm creating. Right now I'm tentatively calling it a Nightwatch in depth, but this is just to show you how to use the element Nightwatch call. So there's been the element and elements. So this is going to show you how to use that to get an array of elements from a page. Here you go. Enjoy the sneak peek. Now we're going to cover the Elements API. What Elements does is returns an array of elements that you want to find. So the one we just learned, element, only returns one element. Elements returns an array of elements based on what you give it. So you can give it, say, a table and you want all the table rows, or you want a whole bunch of divs somewhere on the page, or you want a whole bunch of links. Say you want every link on the page, or every anchor tag, or whatever you want. You can also use the CSS selectors to find like different types of things. Say you want everything with a certain CSS class, or if you want, some weird or more complex way of finding something on the page, Elements will find a whole bunch of those things and return them to you. I'm just going to show you the API real quick. So this is on the under Finding Elements on the API commands, API reference on the Nightwatch.js.org. It takes 3 calls, but we're going to be using async await, so we won't be using the callback at first. So if you're using async await, all you need is the using and the value. Using is the locator strategy. You got all these. We're going to be using a CSS selector for this. And then the value, that'll be the thing that you want to find. The first thing that we're going to tackle is a table. So let me show you what we're going to be, the page we're going to be playing with and what we're going to be doing in the code. So here is the page. First thing, we got a table. So we're going to go through and just get each row of this table. And then we got a couple other things here. We're going to look for everything that has the class of foo in it. So there's, if we inspect the page here, if I view the page source, let me bump this up for you to see. I have 3 things in here that have foo as the class. And this button has a class of foo, and the span has the class of foo. So that would be this button, and this text. They have the class of foo, and we'll be looking for that. And then finally, we'll be jumping through and saying, hey, what if I just want the second column of elements, the first or second column of just these cells? And we're going to hit that real quick. So let's jump into that and get some code going. So the first step here is to create a new file under our test APIs finding elements. We're going to create elements.js. We're going to do the typical stuff, module.exports equals. And we're going to create a async method right here. We'll call this one, the first one's going to be just about finding the table rows. So let's see, get table rows. Async function browser, and the async lets us do the async await stuff, so we don't need to use the callback of the method, which makes things way easier. Trust me on this one. And here we go. So we're going to navigate to the page. I'm in the notes for this lesson. That website I just showed you, it's right there, so you can copy paste from that, or you can pause this to copy the URL if you would like. Let's go into this browser browser.url, and I'm just going to go over here and copy paste this. And you can pause right here. That'll be to get this URL, or check the show notes. And then down here, let's get into it. So I'm going to define a variable here that's going to get the return value of elements. And we're going to look for table rows. So const table rows. And here we're going to use the await keyword. And this just makes everything wait for stuff to return to us. Otherwise, like, the things would blast by really quick and we wouldn't see what happened here. So await just tells everything just hang on a sec. Let me wait and get this value before you keep doing what you do. So await browser.elements. We're going to be using the CSS Selector. And then here's the good part right here. Let me just make it clear to see right here. So CSS Selector is the first thing we're going to call, and the second thing is going to be the value. And right now we just want all the table rows. So the TR for the HTML tag, TR, for all the table rows. And so that should return all the table rows. So let's check that. It should be returning 4 elements. So a lot of the APIs from Nightwatch return things in the value property. So we're going to look at, I'm just going to log out to the screen, console.log, number of rows. Whoops. Plus, and we're going to take this table rows and dot value right here. It's going to return an array. So it should be an array of those 4 rows in that table that we saw. So table.value.length. So if it's an array, it'll have the length property, and the length should be 4. So we should see 4 on the output. Now I'm going to go a little bit further here. Actually, let's just see if this works. I'm just going to let this run and let's see if this works. Here we go. I'm going to do npx Nightwatch-e Chrome. And for this one, I'm going to use an extra thing. I only want to run this test case for this file. So I don't want it to run like before we hit. If I just run this right now, it's going to run both element.js and this elements.js, both of these files. We don't want to run the other one. So what I like doing with VS Code is just going up here to the file name. You can either go here or you can go over here to where it's right here, and you just right click or control click if you're on Mac, and then you go down here to copy relative path. And what that's going to do here, we can do something called --test, and that only run the one file. And then we just paste here. You got test, APIs, finding elements, elements.js. Now, if you're just going to copy this, keep in mind that Windows, what I'm on right now, has backslashes. But if you're on Mac or Linux, it's going to be forward slashes. So you don't want... So if you did the copy that, it would copy and paste the right format for this. But if you're just typing it out, then make sure to use forward slashes. So, and all this is just relative to this directory right here. And so if we kick it off, hopefully, if we did it right, it's going to launch the page, it's going to do its thing, and it's going to say number of rows, value.length. It's going to be number of rows 4. I think we got this. I think we got this. Goes the page really fast. Number of rows. Right here, number of rows 4. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. Let's muck with this a little bit more. Let's see exactly what this is outputting. So when I want to just log out like everything that's being outputted, I use the json.stringify function. So let's just see JSON console.log. Let's go just JSON.stringify. We're going to put table rows null and 4, and this just gives it a nice pretty formatted output that in a string. Wait, trust me on this one. So this should just output everything that element's just returned from that page. And by the way, let's just verify table.length. Let's go back to that web page. There is 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows. So it did the right thing. It got all 4 rows. But now let's see what that looks like a little bit more in detail. So I want to, whoops, clear this out. So I'm just going to, if you just hit the up arrow, it brings up the last commands that you did. So I just hit up arrow. And then we're going to run this test one more time. Ooh, all right. I'm going to hit this little guy to maximize this panel here so we can see everything. There we go. So it ran the test. Number of rows 4 is what we outputted before, but here is the nicely outputted JSON.stringify thing. So what we're going to get back is table.rows.session ID is going to be this session ID, and that's for our browser session. Won't get into the details of that right now. Status right here, 0. So if this status 0 means it was a success, that we called this, there was no errors. If it had any other status, that means we messed up and it returned a failure. Then we got value here is what we were looking at before. And right now the value you can see right here by this bracket that it's an array. And it's an array of these elements. So you can tell right here each one is an object. So it's giving us 4 objects. And this object, each object has an element field and then the web element ID. So element, web element ID, element, web element ID, web element ID. And these web element IDs we can then use with the protocol commands that we're going to discuss later. And they all take web element IDs. And that's when you want to do some more advanced processing of things. And we'll cover that later. So we'll be using element and elements again very soon. But I want to show you just what it looks like under the hood. And I'm going to show you a for loop now just to like show you accessing this stuff in a for loop. Thank you for watching. Again, I am Chris Jackson from actionqa.com. That was a sneak peek of a course I'm working on. Hopefully I'll have it done by the end of 2021. But yeah, that's just going to be a course that's really going to go in depth into Nightwatch. In the notes, I have my current courses on Nightwatch, including a free one that you can get. Yeah, thank you for watching, and please sign up for my email list, also below in the notes. And if you have any questions at all, hit me up on Twitter, ActionQA on Twitter. And yeah, just let me know. I'd love to hear from you and love to try to answer that. Take care.